if what we're hearing is true, that Godwin Emefiele has resigned, and he resigned as at August, the next question would be, why detain him then? If he has resigned, why detain him? Why not leave the man that his signature is on your currency now? I said this when the hula baloo around correctional services and DSS transpired in public glare. And I'm saying, guys, nothing concerns me. I'm not a politician. I'm not out to, for all this dancing in the public naked. What I'm saying is that this president said he's pro-business, he's business savvy, he really means business. The optics outside. He's now in the US trying to cut investors. But the man signing your currency is currently in detention. And you came over the weekend to say, okay, he resigned as of August. The question is, then why keep him? His case is in court. The judge actually upheld earlier. Put this man in prison. Let him. So all those stuff, dovetailing from what you actually said, the optics and all of that. And what does it actually also portend for rule of law? The second question also is it that any government that comes into power, especially here in Nigeria, does that mean that perhaps technocrats or even people working, not just even the central bank, this we've seen, all the boards gone, FIRS okay, the chairman has proceeded on leave and all of that. Does that mean that when there's a new government, the people managing perhaps the economy or any sector should now be agitated that there's a new sheriff in town and all of us will be asked to go? Is it something politicians do? Is it like that? Or is a risk in itself?
I think it's really risky. Again, it's surprising because this is a government, the same party, making a transition. I mean, you can't understand in 2015, there was a hostile takeover, a new party that's been in opposition, angry and bitter, upstaged a ruling party. So one could say that there was acrimony and then they needed to deal with everybody. But this is a party handed over to itself. So we expected a more orderly transition. I think it speaks about the dangerous politics that preceded Tinubu's emergence, the bitter politics, the many ways in which he was obstructed, and then he is now probably um, looking back and fighting back. It's not good for stability. Yes, oftentimes presidents, consequential presidents, would like to have their team because economic policies, social policies are contentious. There are different versions of how to run the economy. And so I would understand this the basic disposition to have their men line up for you in the critical areas. But you can do that transition smoothly. You can do it without too much chaos. You don't have to put power in prison, put Emefiele in prison. You could, some of these appointments are not tenured. For example, the chairman of EFCC is not tenured. So you could do a transition, smooth transition. And then if these guys have questions to answer, this is very important. We can't allow public officers who have real questions to answer go free. But the governor of central bank is somebody who is not going to disappear in thin air. So even if he resigns and he probably don't want him to continue, and he accepts and resigns, then you can release him from detention, put him on the bail, maybe his national passport so that he have restricted movement. I mean, he can't just leave the country. There are protocol and processes. And then if he's in trial, the court now takes over. That's the real point here. The moment you put somebody on a valid charge, the court takes over the process. The court can allow him to travel to the country. The court can bring him back. The court can, the court can control until that case is disposed. So the notion of trapping people, detaining such high officers who are visible, whether these are not mere criminals who could just disappear, and keeping them detained as part of court order is silly, it's ineffective. It doesn't really help the government, and it creates a bad testimonial about the rule of law credentials of that country. Now, if you look